Greetings, this is dslyecxi, and today I'd like to talk a bit about my efforts to make more authentic night vision for Arma. We'll go over the various features as a comparison between how things work in the real world and how I've abstracted them within Arma's constraints. Bear in mind that real-world night vision is an extensive and complex topic, and I don't intend to hit on every aspect of it here. Instead, I'll focus on ones that I was able to accomplish or abstract through the limitations of Arma. I'll be showing three types of footage: vanilla Arma night vision, my modded version, and reference footage I took back in 2014 with my own PVS-14 monocular. For my real-world footage, the sequences shown take place in two lighting conditions. The first is this one, a half moon in a clear sky. While the second is this, where there was a no moon night with no overcast, but a fair amount of ambient light pollution. Starting off, real night vision offers a significantly restricted field of view. Modern night vision binoculars like the PVS-14 have a roughly 40-degree field of view, so roughly half the typical Arma horizontal field of view, assuming a 16:9 aspect ratio. Even quad-tube devices like the GPNVG 18 only offer roughly 97 degrees of view horizontally and only about 40 degrees vertically. It's a far cry from what Arma has shown night vision as since OFP, where you have a nearly full-screen image offering crystal clarity out to extreme range, as shown through either a biocular or binocular device. Walking around with a real PVS-14 binocular, by contrast, is a very claustrophobic experience. You're viewing the world through a small tube, and you're fully aware of just how much you don't see unless you look directly at it. It's hard to fully appreciate how limited this is when you're looking at a video like this on a monitor at who knows what size. We can try though. To put it in perspective, try taking a toilet paper tube, place it an inch or so away from your eye, and scale this video down to where you can see the whole night vision aperture through it. That's the kind of field of view you're talking about with something like a PVS-14, which this is filmed through. To reflect the field of view limitations, my night vision mod has different overlays for different night vision devices. This includes biocular, where both eyes are looking through a single image tube, like with the PVS-7, which was the displayed night vision device from Flashpoint to Arma 2, and is available in Arma 3 via the Community Upgrade Project, or CUP. Speaking of cups, see how the eye cups are used here? That'll come into relevance shortly. Then we have monoculars, where only one eye is looking through a single tube, like the PVS-14, and the other eye is seeing unaided. There are binoculars, where both eyes are looking through their own tubes, allowing for full depth perception, like with the PVS-15, 23, 31, or the default Arma 3 night vision goggles. Finally, we have quadoculars, where four tubes are combined for viewing with two eyes, allowing for a wider horizontal field of view like with the GPNVG 18. In this mod, the field of view you receive is dynamically calculated based on your current zoom level, meaning that you always have a correctly sized viewing area. You'll notice that when zooming in, a slight hexagonal pattern can be seen on the image, particularly in brighter light. This is something you see in reality with night vision devices due to how they're built. Here's a look at the real thing for comparison. You tend to notice this in brighter lighting situations, or when a bright object occupies part of the field of view. Also note that the edges of your view will be blurred slightly as well, with the best visibility located in the center. You'll see that the monocular, binocular, and quadocular borders are all partially transparent. This is a compromise intended to represent being able to see around the goggles. To visualize this, make a fist, then bring your hand an inch or two in front of your eye, closing the other eye in the process. Your fist is a tube, and everything else you can see is the kind of peripheral vision you have in reality with night vision. A fist over each eye is akin to what you'd see with a binocular or quadocular set. So, to represent this in Arma, the peripheral is mostly faded, but still partially visible. It's imperfect, but it's much closer to reality than having an opaque border. In the interest of making the biocular devices unique, I decided to represent them as having their eye cups on, like how the CUP PVS-7 is represented here. Now, in reality, you can flip those up like you would on a modern binocular night vision, or take them off entirely, but for the sake of distinguishing them, I feel it's interesting to represent them as being down. And as a result, the biocular view does not have the semi-transparent aspects of the other ones, and is quite a bit more claustrophobic as a result. In Arma 3, your field of view dynamically adjusts based on how fast you're moving. This is something you'll notice when driving or flying fast, with your FOV widening the faster you go. This becomes particularly claustrophobic as an aviator, as it should. Flying with real night vision is a skill that takes great amount of practice and instruction to do safely, and night vision accidents are not uncommon to read about. My night vision mod makes night helicopter operations much more challenging to conduct, and if you're anything like me, the extra challenge is a welcome enhancement. It adds much more depth to the night environment. Moving on, let's talk about the other big factor of real-world night vision that games generally get wrong. The most common misconception about night vision is that it's simply perfect, that no matter how dark it is, you can always see clearly. Well, the reality is far from that. Just like your biological vision or a camera, night vision loses fidelity as the light level decreases.
The important thing to state is that without night vision on right now, you can see precisely fuck all. You can see silhouettes of trees against the sky, indistinct. You can see lights, some dim clouds, a decent amount of stars.
It's entirely possible to end up in an environment where night vision gives you no usable image, such as a cave, a room inside of a building that's cut off from other light sources, and so forth. It's simple. If there's no light to amplify, and thus there's no usable image. In the real world, this can be mitigated by having some kind of infrared illumination. For instance, the IR illuminator attached to a rifle, an IR headlamp, chem lights, flares, and so forth. But that's not something that Arma tends to be able to do, or do well. Perhaps in the future. Illumination conditions are factored into real military operations with an understanding that no-lume nights are particularly treacherous and require extreme care and skill to operate it. The factors I've taken into consideration with this mod include the moon, such as whether it's visible and how bright it is, and the weather, in the form of overcast and rain. The less ambient light there is, the more the image quality will degrade, through changes in contrast, brightness, and grain in the image, as well as total viewable distance. A full moon is of little help to you when the sky is completely overcast, and it's possible to end up in an environment where your night vision won't be giving you much, if any, image. Here we can see a bright, moonlit night. By comparison, here's the opposite extreme, a fully overcast and rainy night. As you can see, there's a great range of difference between good and poor lighting conditions, and you have to plan and fight accordingly. One nuance of real-world weapons usage under night vision is you can't actually focus on weapon sights through a night vision device due to the fixed lens aperture. This is why IR designators exist. And while they aren't exactly correct in Arma 3, they're still viable as a sighting method. This is an area where we have to compromise. While in reality you couldn't aim down the sights with a typical weapon, there are methods available that can't be represented in Arma currently. Still, it's worth incentivizing IR lasers, or at least degrading long-range accuracy, in order to at least capture some of the spirit of the real limitations. As a result, you receive a slight blur when in sighted mode, and it's not enough to impact short-range engagements, but hopefully enough to have some influence further away. Also note that as part of this mod, IR lasers have been tweaked in the config to support a maximum of 64 rendered beams at once. I've also included a representation of the rolling shutter effect when muzzle flashes are seen from your own weapon. This is abstracted as a black flash with a random chance of happening on any given shot. As you can see in the real footage, this tends to present itself as a white artifact on a portion of the viewable area. But since that's not something I was able to get to look correct, I simply went with this abstraction instead. Note of course that this will depend on whether or not you're using a suppressor, as a suppressor will prevent muzzle flash from becoming an issue in this regard. So I bet at some point during this you thought, gee, dslyecxi, that looks nice and all, but what about the noise? To which I have to say, you're right. I hadn't tweaked the noise in a while, it was on my to-do list, and it slipped my mind. Putting the real and mod footage together in this video inspired me to take another pass at it, so here's what I've done. The noise becomes much more significant in lower lighting, and I tweak the overcasts, moonlight, and rain influences. It now has considerably poorer visibility in full overcast or rainy conditions, but there's a broader range of lighting conditions in lower overcast and different moon phases. Basically, there's more noise, there's more range between good and terrible lighting conditions, but the general theme of everything else remains as stated. So those are the basic features of my night vision mod. I'll be donating this to the ACE3 team for their consideration, which should hopefully mean that in the not too distant future it'll be available for anyone to use, like the grenades I donated in the past. I hope you've enjoyed this look at my take on night vision and Arma. Maybe someday we'll see the many other real-world factors come into play as well. One can certainly hope. This is dslyecxi, and until next time, take care.